Thank you, Chair Connell and committee members for the opportunity to speak today on my bill is 5280. I'm a veteran. I'm a combat veteran. I was doing a radio interview just the other day on this set of bills. I've gotten a lot of interest in the whole set of bills. And I was doing a radio interview just the other day, 2 days ago. And the individual asked me, he said, what would this do that would have helped you? Or would this set of bills have helped you? And it really got me thinking, because in the military, there's lots of surveys, lots of screenings that are done, especially when you're coming off deployment. And it made me think back to 2004 when I returned from my first combat tour in Iraq. I was gone about a year and a half. I left 5 days with 5 days notice, left my wife, 2 children, 2.5 and 1.5 years old, 5-day notice, gone for almost a year and a half. And I got to thinking, when you come back from deployment, your only goal is to get home. No matter what that home is, whether you're married, you have children, you have a dog, you want to be home. And I remember sitting at Fort Leonard Wood in 2004, and essentially they said, if you say yes to anything, you're staying here longer. And I remember getting, you say no to everything. At that point, your goal is to get home. And in every tour, I can look back like that is exactly how it works. But when I got back in 2004, the day after I got home, I did not know what to do with myself. So I tore down half my house. I got a front end loader from a friend of mine and tore down half of our house. So if you can imagine, if you're my spouse sitting in her shoes, why she's still with me, I don't know. But I tore down the bedrooms, I tore off the kitchen, and I proceeded to start building a new house. And we had a bathroom that you could see the stars in, and half a bedroom that we slept in. And I say that to come to the conclusion that I had no idea what was going on with me. I was one of the first returning combat troops since probably Vietnam. To be honest, there was Desert Storm in the early 90s. There were returning troops from that, and that was combat. But as far as on a large scale, we were the first returning troops coming home to the county of Monroe in decades. And for 2.5 months, I worked on building a new home. My spouse, her good nature, she tried to help me a number of times. I actually employed a friend of mine for 2 weeks until he couldn't handle it anymore. My wife was not able to handle me. I was a different person. I came home quite different, quite agitated, quite unruly. And after 2.5 months, I got the roof on and I went back to work. And not that long after going to work, we worked on Telegraph Road, right there north of Flat Rock. I was a lineman. And I just remember that traffic and the anxiety that I had. Soon after going back to work, I remember a couple grade school girls running across the street, and I almost hit them. I had to slam on my brakes. And it brought back all sorts of memories and anxiety. And I remember pulling off to the side of the road and crying. And I know I don't probably look like the crying type, but I say that I did not understand what was going on internally. And as I was having this radio interview just the other day, as I said, it would have been nice to have something when I came home after I got back to life. And many people, say, they want to come home, and you see that glorious homecoming. And we did it after my 4th tour. I surprised the kids at school, and the news from Toledo news came up and recorded me surprising my children at school. It's very fun. It was awesome. But really, it's the day after and the week after where life and reality hits, that you have changed, your family have changed, and you are not going in the same situation again. And what my bill does is set up a system, and I should have gave the bluff up front. essentially the bottom line up front is it bridges the divide between military and civilian life and gives a military person the opportunity to find purpose in life again through a valuable screening. And this screening will be set up by the MVAA, contracting out to a nonprofit to do this screening. Now, I don't know if it's, CAPS 5 screening or not. I don't know. But what I told the radio interviewer is that your only goal when you're coming back from deployment is to get home. You say no on everything because you want to get home. That's just the way it is. But once life hits you, you realize I'm not necessarily the same as I was when I left. I'm having issues. This screening will identify, as it says in the lingo, the warning signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. Many people, those are sometimes easy to spot, sometimes hard to spot. I heard someone say suffering in silence. Usually veterans kind of suffer in loudness a lot of times because we become screaming maniacs or we have anger issues. We deal with suicidal ideation, nervous anxiety. A lot of us have sleep disturbances, hypervigilance, flashbacks, setbacks, depression, headaches, memory loss, lack of concentration, mood swings. All these things can be related to PTSD from that traumatic experience that you experience. And this screening that is going to be set up will help identify those in order for your veteran service officers in the counties to be able to get that feedback and then reach out to these folks. It's all voluntary, obviously, but I think once people are home, they're much more easily able to volunteer to open up a little bit. For me, it was after my third combat tour in Afghanistan when I was living life quite recklessly. I was quite different. Believe it or not, even after 2004, we recovered, but I never really recovered. And it came to a point where my spouse said, if you're gonna stay here, you need to get help. And that was a wake-up call, and I did seek out help. And I try to be very open. And when I was on the radio interview, taking back the gentleman, he said, "You're very open about this." I said, because I hid it for a decade and a half. And now that I've opened up and I've told many individuals that I've served with the troubles that I was dealing with, and they thought of me as, the big chief, chief warrant officer. Chief never has problems. Chief is good. Always ask chief. Chief knows what to do. And the fact is we're all human. And we all respond differently. And sometimes we can't overcome the difficulties of life and the traumatic experiences that we deal with. But eventually, enough of those hit home and we hit bottom. And I hit bottom in 2016 for a couple years. And I dealt with suicidal ideation. And I don't mean to give too much information, but I try to be open because there's people out there I served with. I've lost more friends since coming home than I lost in theater. And I've lost a good handful of friends in Iraq and Afghanistan, some to injury, some to accidents. But I want to be able to be a help to those that are coming home. So I feel this 5280, establishing this screening process, Michigan Bridge Azimuth Bridge program will assist. And if it can help some veterans, as I said, there's plenty of programs out there on the federal side. Even when I came home this last deployment in 21, they ask you lots and lots of questions. But again, your goal is to get home. Your goal is to get back to your family, your dog, your wife, your chickens, your sheep, whatever you have at home that you want to get back to. You want to get back to your job. You want to get back to your extended family. And you're going to say no on a lot of things that you probably should be saying yes on. And I think this program or this bill will give a little more clout to that after screening that is desperately needed. Thank you, Madam Chair.